Hi, friends. Gene Valentino, and welcome back to another episode of Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. We're with Ryan Kennedy, Chief Operating Officer at Florida Citizens Alliance. It's a Florida-based 501c3 operation, and this is where we get a chance to reach out to folks like Ryan and discuss what's really important, and that's the future of our nation. It's the future of our children and how we're bringing them through a system of government and education, and hopefully having them come in, right, Ryan, and do a better job at replacing us.
Yes.
And what we're doing. Folks, my introduction and welcoming to Ryan Kennedy. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Thank you, Gene, for having me on.
I have so many questions to ask you about Florida Citizens Alliance and what you're doing, not just in Florida, but throughout the nation. And we're going to have more of this discussion with Ryan Kennedy right after this. Relationships matter because people buy people, and that's why I buy Eddie Zarin Insurance of the Zarin Insurance Agency in Pensacola, Florida, a family-owned business with over 50 years in the business, and they treat people the right way. From homeowners insurance to contractors insurance, condo insurance, commercial insurance, all the different coverages that are out there, and of course auto insurance, they've got you covered. They worry about you first. You're more than a policy number. You're a person who they're watching out for, not when the sun is shining, but after the hurricane has left. If you want real service with real savings, contact Eddie Zarin at the Eddie Zarin Insurance Agency. www.zarininsurance.com. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did when you do. Welcome back. We're with Ryan Kennedy here from the Florida Citizens Alliance. Ryan, welcome aboard. I'd like you to take the ball and run with this because you and I had the privilege of meeting at a recent conference in McLean, Virginia. And I think what's great with these conferences we end up going to is we meet other people from other walks of life, and they enlighten us, as you did with me when we met at that conference. What is your job with Florida Citizens Alliance? What are you doing there? And what is in your own words, what's your organization doing?
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for having me on. And I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Florida Citizens Alliance. So I manage all the day-to-day operating organization, everything from our policy work to our advocacy efforts to what we do to provide parents with solutions to concerns they have related to their children. Our whole organization is focused on improving the lives of children here in the state of Florida. We primarily get involved with education policy because children spend most of their time in a school setting. However, we do get involved in other areas that impact families and impact a child, indirectly. And so we're, like you mentioned, we're a 501c3. And so we are here to provide solutions and information to parents and solutions and information to legislators.
And folks, before you go too far, Ryan, let's give them the website and contact information on you. Folks, hang in with the rest of the story here. We're talking about the future of our children, and Ryan might be an advocate for some of your concerns. Ryan?
Yep. GoFLCA.org is our website. It's goflca.org. fl.citizens.alliance is all of our social media handles. And you can find me on X, Ryan Kennedy 63. Always feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me through the website or through one of my social media handles.
What is the focus that you're working on right now? I know since I was in high school and college, this concept of AI has taken the lead in the educational system at all levels, not to mention business, finance, and our environmental concerns on the federal level. What motivates you? What's your focus?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing related to AI that most people need to understand is that your child is already using it to some degree or another.
Mm.
Children are the vast users of AI. ChatGPT, their own numbers, they're the largest AI provider out there. They say that 80% roughly of their users are 25 and under, which means these are the youth of our nation that are using this product. When you break it down, one of the most concerning statistics, and it comes from Common Sense Media, is actually that one third of children that are using AI would rather talk to AI about a serious issue than a human. That includes their friends, that includes their pastor, that includes their parents. So that's very concerning. And when we were looking at some of these surveys and statistics, we knew that we needed to address this area head on.
You've been involved as COO since 2026. You were with the organization for, I'm guessing, about a decade prior. And all I keep hearing about is the need for agencies like yourself to come in, step in, and police. Um, isn't this a shame that we have to find ourselves in the position of policing the behavior of what's being presented to our children? Can you expound?
Yes, yes, and that's exactly right, and that's been one of the biggest uh, areas that we've done, especially when it comes to the area of AI. AI is quickly being introduced into school districts across Florida and across the nation, for that matter. And there's a lot of good with AI. It's a tool, so it can be used for a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad things that can happen with AI. Just recently, again, kind of breaking news was the Attorney General of Florida put out a lawsuit against OpenAI and Sam Altman for some of those concerns related to children's safety on that particular platform. And so we know that these companies do need some safeguards in place to protect kids, just like all industries have certain safeguards. And our children obviously are a special audience in the sense that they're not adults yet. And we want to make sure parents' rights are protected and parents can have a say on whether or not their children can use these products.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder why. I mean, you must go home at night frustrated at times if if you're trying to move the mountain and change uh, behavior in the educational system through your advocacy. But what is going on that the parents are allowing a school system to manipulate and control the behavior of the children? Uh, iPhones, iPads, or no iPads. What's going on that's caused you to have to step up to intervene?
Yeah, well, I think originally, to your point, it was a lot of this indoctrination, I'll call it, but it was this ideology being driven by folks who really have an agenda, usually a political agenda, right, to try to drive a narrative a certain way out of the youth of our country. And so, it started there and trying to deal with that. What it's morphed into over time is with a lot of these inventions of these technologies is these technologies have in a lot of cases just sped up that same process. And so it's been a constant fight. And yes, parents a lot of times didn't know what happened. It really was COVID that kind of woke a lot of parents up to what was going on in schools and with their children, that children were spending 8 days 8 hours a day there, and parents didn't really know what was going on.
You know, your pro-life advocacy, I know your 501c3 supports a lot of the moral issues that are considered conservative and Republican based. But it reminds me of what the parents should have been doing to police the bad behavior at the school board level. Are you having now to intervene to check on the credibility of literature in the library that the children have access to, or is this something that still remains in the parents' control?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did very early on as an organization was to strengthen our laws here in Florida to allow parents to be able to view what was going on in schools. So we actually got a law passed by then Governor Rick Scott, expanding our textbook adoption process to make sure all residents in a county could see what was going on in schools. And we did that as transparency, right? To make sure parents were in the driver's seat, to make sure that everybody knew what was going on. Uh, to your point on some of these moral issues, yeah, we don't. We would like the parents to be in driver's seat, but a lot of times, especially in the past, they were shut out. Now that's why we spend a lot of time educating parents, letting them know what options they have, but also trying to fix loopholes that still exist within the system.
What's Where's this coming from, Ryan? The fact that you're doing this is so admirable, and I'm grateful you exist. And I hope people find your website and contribute to your cause. But it's almost a regret. I mean, why do you have to do it in the first place? Is this a failing in the system of government? Is it the failing of a social moral fabric? Is it the advent of technology, AI, bubbling up in parallel? Well, how do you view this?
Yeah. I think it originally really stems from a moral, obviously, a direction. I think that, we've seen throughout the decades declining in church attendance and religious participation. I think that's where it all starts originally. But then I think there was this trend to say, okay, well, we're just going to let government institutions decide what happens with my child. They know what's best, and so it was some of that going on too. And then when you bring in AI and fold in some of these technologies, a lot of this is only just sped up. And a lot of these technologies again are used in a lot of cases to help um, sometimes bad actors, to be able to continue this indoctrination. When for example, when it comes to books in schools, there's all these online libraries now where kids can check out books from all different kinds of locations. So that's a good technology, but also that can have its drawbacks too, because now that it's online, there's a lot greater access to the greater internet than there was before with going to check out a book physically in a physical library.
I saw from your notes that the organization Florida Citizens Alliance was founded in 2013. Mr. Keith Flo, I think it's pronounced, and Mr. Rick Stevens. So you've been around about 16 years, and in that period of time, more recently, President Trump has signed off on an executive order to try to set into motion a framework nationwide for folks like you to springboard from. And at the state level, you mentioned Governor DeSantis recently doing two things on AI in Florida alone. You want to expound on that?
Yes. So Governor DeSantis put out an AI Bill of Rights, which was largely springboarding off of this concept that parents and children need to be protected. That was based on that executive order Trump signed back in December, that allowed for states to be able to protect children. The AI Bill of Rights sadly did not pass. However, working with the legislators, we know that they understand this is an important issue that needs to be addressed. You even see just recently, again, the Attorney General of Florida doing the lawsuit. There was a data center bill that was signed into law this past session, dealing with data centers. So there's definitely a growing amount of evidence, and the legislators do understand that this issue needs to be addressed. And so we're hopeful next session we're going to get some good results there.
Your website shows a core team of about 10 people, in addition to the two founders. But one of the things I regret you have to focus on is a response, a strategy against this gender ideology attempt in the school system to manipulate the thinking of a youth. of the youth in their own development. What's how serious in Florida is gender ideology being impacted by intervention or uh, indoctrination of the school system?
Well, thankfully, Florida a couple of years ago passed some pretty strong bills related to gender ideology. We were very involved in those bills. One was banning transgender surgeries and transgender treatments. The other one dealt with this sort of indoctrination in schools of transgenderism. What I will say is that even with those bills being passed, there still are some school districts across the state that are choosing to ignore it or choosing to look the other way. You do find teachers from time to time that will still talk about the subject. Thankfully, the DOE has been doing a good job enforcing it and bringing action against those school districts, against those individuals. However, again, the way that we look at it is going back to one of your earlier questions about, what's the root cause of this. We do believe that there needs to be some moral upbringing back into the school system when it comes to children being taught, the Western civilizational worldview that we were all taught on for so long. That has, for whatever reason, by design, but also by just, I think, a lack of effort, has gone away.
You're located in Central Florida.
Yeah, we're a statewide organization, but we do have members there, and we have members in Southwest Florida, and we have members, and our team is spread out throughout the state.
You spread out throughout the nation, or other alliances throughout the nation?
Yes, so we work with a number of other organizations nationwide, especially on this AI issue in particular. We've been working with a lot of organizations, that and the pro-life issue. What I will say, we just got a huge win yesterday from the President of the United States. He signed in an executive order on AI when it comes to making sure AI can't be used in certain cybersecurity type crimes. That's actually been something that we've been sounding the alarm at the Florida Citizens Alliance, is that AI is being used to help commit crimes, largely, obviously, from our perspective, against children. However, being committing crimes nonetheless. And so we were happy that the President Trump signed that. We actually had a coalition out that we were involved with 60 plus other conservative leaning organizations. So we were happy to hear that yesterday.
It seems like you may also have some task forces or teams that get out at the school level. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yes. So we have Kids First teams, is what we call them, and they are local community based organizations. We're in 20 plus counties throughout the state of Florida. And we cover all the major metropolitan areas within those counties. And what they're designed for is they are local, going out to school district meetings, school board meetings, or going to the county commission meetings, or going talking at local events, and they're talking to parents particularly about the issues going on in schools and pertaining to children.
Boy, you ought to come out to the panhandle of Florida, which is where we are. I can tell you there are some libertarians and right-leaning individuals in this neck of the woods out here that they're at school board meetings and county commission meetings, city council meetings, and they aren't shy about their position on making sure that this gender intervention stuff that's going on, and the actual literacy of the children being impacted by what's in the library, on the library shelves, is not necessarily what they should be reading and looking at. And are you encouraging teams with parents and communities to help save on your resources? Where's the breakdown on the handoff of your statewide concept to the local community?
Yeah. So yes, our Kids First teams are volunteer-based partners of ours. We give them resources, information, marketing materials, anything they need to help them succeed in what they're trying to do. We always try to have a good relationship with school board members so that we can have success. Some of our best teams have been able to influence the direction of their schools. So, for example, I'll just say when it comes to, for example, in Lee County, we were able to get them to pass a good, strong um, opt in, requiring parents to make sure that that their kids don't get access to some of these concerning book content. So we had a very good cordial relationship with that school board, and they were able to get that done.
And put you on the spot here. Can you quantify exactly how impressive this success story is in other states? Are you able to cookie cutter and copy and paste, so to speak, your concept into other states in the nation?
Yeah, a lot of other organizations have used the same similar concepts, and it is successful because people tend to have the most influence at the local level, and then at the state, and then obviously nationally last, because you're closer to your local officials, right? They live down the street from you. They go to the same grocery store as you. They go to the same church as you, and so you tend to have a lot more influence over those individuals. So yes, we encourage as much to be done as possible at the local level. Obviously, we know with certain policies that we have to adjust, and they have to be done at the state or at the federal level. And so that's why we work in some of those areas. But we always want to try to have local community, local individuals have a say in what happens.
We're talking with Ryan Kennedy, COO of Florida Citizens Alliance. Ryan, you've obviously explained what you're doing at the grassroots level, but what about your testimony at state or federal legislative sessions? I'm very interested in what you're saying to the legislative bodies before you end up getting to a friendly governor or a friendly president to support your cause. What is, are you getting help from any of the legislative bodies?
Yes, yes. We have a pretty good track record, especially here in the state of Florida, to get stuff done. We tend to take the approach of bringing facts and information to them. We
Good.
want to be there as a resource. We come with solutions. That's our biggest approach. And so we'll put together. And if you go to our website, you can see some of the ones we did from this last session. But information, one-page documents that show of just a brief breakdown on particular issues and the surveys surrounding it. So in particular, when it came to AI, which was a huge topic this last legislative session, we worked with a number of organizations to pull court data on some of these private lawsuits that have happened, surveys, so polling surveys of voters, and we worked with legislators to try to get some policy done. And like I said, the AI Bill of Rights did pass all the way through to Florida Senate, and so we did get some good traction on that. And the same thing at the federal level. We bring information and facts to the congressmen and to U.S. senators.
And can you identify specific legislative efforts that they're underway with because of your input?
Yes. So, in particular, related to AI, we were primarily responsible here in Florida for sounding the alarm on some of these criminal activities that have happened with AI being used in conjunction to commit some crimes. So, the Attorney General, I think, took a lot of that info and it got him across the finish line to hopefully get to the point of where he was at. I know his office does a good job at looking at cases as a whole. When it comes to within Florida, just recently, one of the other wins that we've had was related to social media, which is very similar in a lot of ways to this AI technology. But Florida 2 years ago passed a very good social media bill, dealing with social media and making sure kids were protected from a lot of the predatory algorithms and some of the predators that lurk on social media. And we brought a lot of information and facts related to that, and that bill was signed into law and is taking effect. It's stood up in court, so it's a good bill, and it's we're one of the first in the nation to do it.
How about these criminals who pose as young kids only to try to draw in or entice a young a person to befriend them for the purpose of something more heinous and illegal? Can you put your finger on prosecutions and incarcerations as a result of your efforts?
Yeah, so we've been able to in Florida. We were able to get that social media bill passed. Off of that, we were actually able to get essentially a Florida version of the Take It Down Act, which was passed federally. President Trump signing the law, but there was a Florida version of that just a little bit beforehand that dealt with people again using technology to poise as adults, and to also use technology to make minors in compromising sexual positions, using that kind of technology. And so, thankfully, we have a state law about that. Now we have a federal law. And so that was one of the great accomplishments under the Trump administration, is the Take It Down Act taking effect. And we know in Florida there have been prosecutions related to that, and at the federal level, there was the first federal prosecution on that just a little bit ago. Was announced by the Attorney General's office.
It's a shame it's come to this because really, when I first met you, I thought the emphasis would be on school curriculum. It seems you're spending a lot of time on policing the bad behavior, if not from the teacher, from wrongdoers around the community.
Yeah, it is. It is sad. We do a lot of work on school curriculum as well, but you're right. We've seen this emphasis on, again, trying to push a certain agenda on children, especially an agenda that's dangerous. We know statistically affects their mental health. We have major mental health crisis rates in our country, and we know statistically pushing sexual content on children very young can cause mental health harm. And so, yeah, we've responded to that, but we do a lot of work on curriculum, and that's actually one of our other big kind of claim to fames, is we were one of the major groups working to get rid of Common Core here in the state of Florida, and we were able to get that done. And that's been used as a springboard in a number of states to remove Common Core. Not all the states have, but a number of them have.
What is, in your opinion, the shortcoming of Common Core?
The shortcoming really comes down to it's focused on only a certain set of students can really learn from Common Core. And so when it comes to reading, for example, a lot of ways that I was taught reading, and you probably were taught reading, is by phonics, right? So you would learn the sounds, which would then encompass the word itself, and that's how you would read. They switched to what's called sight reading in Common Core, which they showed a picture and then they said, this is the word that corresponds with this picture. And that only goes so far, because when it comes to certain words, phonics tends to work better. Another thing that phonics helps with is dyslexia. Children that suffer from dyslexia tend to learn better with phonics than they do with sight reading. And so, like I said, it really only Common Core really only works for certain students, and you have to fit within this box in order to make it work. With math, learning what's called math facts first, which is the building blocks. So your multiplication, division, those sorts of things are building blocks to then work on higher levels of math. And Common Core, again, doesn't follow that same pathway.
We see a lot of the educational system drifting towards homeschooling and chartered school systems. How do you intervene in those environments?
Yes. So one of the biggest programs we have outside of our policy work is related to what we call our microschool initiative. And this is where we actually help parents who want to make that leap start one-room schoolhouses, co-ops, hybrid models for their children. And so we help walk through with parents on how to do that. We don't particularly push a certain curriculum. except in the sense that we do favor classical based education and Christian based education. However, we don't tell you you have to use X, Y, or Z provider to do that. We use consultants across the state to help us in that. We've started over 20 schools in Florida in 2 years, serving over 500 students. So we're very pleased about that, and we plan to grow that number exponentially this year.
It's amazing how education has changed in just a few decades. So Ryan Kennedy turns around with Florida Citizens Alliance and hires a guy like me to come in and sell the heck out of Florida Citizens Alliance. Where do you place me, and what would you like me to do for you if I came on to help you out?
Well, I would say, spread words to your friends. Help let people know about what we're doing. We offer a lot of services, and we offer a lot of good, and we've gotten a lot of good stuff done in Florida that a lot of children have benefited from. We have the statistics, we have the numbers, we know again that education is improving in our state. It's improved quite a bit. The like you said, homeschooling and private schooling, all those things have expanded and taken off in that, and we believe that that's going to have a net positive effect on children in the long run. So, these are all great things that we can point to.
Do you get down into the testing arena, for example, helping the system with SATs or the equivalency exams? Do you engage with the local school boards in any way like that?
Yes, actually. In fact, we've gotten very involved in testing and recommending certain testing capacities. One of the things that SAT and ACT did about 5 or 8 years ago was they switched to a Common Core model. And so what we've suggested is you should take a look at the CLT, which is the Classical Learning Test. It's a great program. It's actually been authorized in Florida to act as a replacement to this SAT and ACT. All public universities in Florida are required to take it for admission, and a number of other states do, for that matter, as well. All your big universities across the nation take it. So we highly encourage people to use that test curriculum because, again, it's not Common Core compliant. And it aligns with what we're doing here in Florida, which is we don't have a Common Core curriculum.
Interesting. Ryan, where's your organization now, and where are you going as you see it in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, so right now we are on, like I said, an exponential growth. We want to try to expand our microschool initiative across, every single county in Florida, and we do that through our ambassadors, our consultants. So we want to have a consultant in every region of Florida. So we're looking for one in the Panhandle. We're looking for one in Northeast Florida and those particular areas, if you know people in that area that are listening. But we also are doing a lot of legislative work as well. We'd like to see some good, strong safeguards on AI. We hope that will get passed this session. And we'll probably need to start addressing in the next couple of years school grades. School grades are an issue, especially with the upcoming governor's race and potentially new governor in Florida, that the new governor will have an opportunity to address the school grading system and make it transparent for parents so they know what school grade their actual school grades are. And we also, on that issue, we also want to help the school districts. School districts get a number of resources on the back of certain grades that they get. And so we want schools to succeed. We want every child to succeed, whether they're in public school or homeschool or private school. So that's our goal, and that's what we want.
Do you see any, are you exposed in any way to violence or abuse of children? Not from the teacher, presumably, but do you see the teacher reaching out to you looking for help with the issues related to abuse at home of the child?
Well, what I would say is that that's not an area where we've had a lot of teachers reach out to us, but that is an important area. We know that children do have that happen in Florida. I know Governor DeSantis was working with their faith department to address some of those issues of neglect and those sorts of things. We do think, and it's very imperative that children, um, try to stay within the home as much as they can, as long as they're not in a as long as they're in a safe environment. Because we know statistically that children who are with their families and who have a strong family are set up the best way for success. So that's an area that we're looking at more heavily getting involved with. And if there are people that want to reach out to us about that, please do.
You mentioned something that I think is critical, and that's, yeah, your team spirited approach allows you to expand more geometrically, not only throughout Florida, but throughout the rest of the nation. Throw your phone number and website out there again. How do they reach you?
Yes. So our office line is 239-671-5733. Our website is goflca.org. So it's goflca.org. You can go to our website. You can click on my bio, and you'll be able to connect with me through there. We have an admin email line that you can reach out to. And like I said, I gave you the office line. So
Yep.
those are all ways to get a hold of us.
And your donations is your primary source of funding. Is there any special federal or state funding?
Yes, no, we are completely donor driven, and we do that primarily because we don't want to be handicapped in how we can use our funds. A lot
Good.
of these grant programs do handicap what organizations can do. We know, especially under administrations that don't see eye to eye with us, that they use those grants to bully organizations into doing things a certain way. And so we are donor driven, and we are 501c3, so you get a tax write off to help us with creating policy, working with parents, getting the educational environments, and working with local school districts. All that, what we do is 501c3, so you can help us tremendously by giving us a donation if you
So
have.
a donation could also be in terms of work or in kind, in trade somehow. Uh,
Yes.
this is a very interesting point because as you're trying to expand out into the communities, you can offer a quid pro quo in terms of maybe a tax credit for them if they're donating time and effort and resources in communities that you otherwise were not invested in yet. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of individuals donate their time to us, volunteer with us. We do a lot of work with, for example, college students who. So if you have a college student that needs a community service hours or an internship, we have opportunities for those. We do a lot of, again, with community service hours. Bright Futures, for example, requires you to have a certain amount of hours to get the scholarship in Florida. Because we're a nonprofit, your child can spend their time working with us.
Very interesting. You have, in a very concise way, done in a half-hour interview what often comes out in an hour to an hour and a half on some other interviews I've had. I really appreciate your articulation. Ryan Kennedy with Florida Citizens Alliance. Any general comments going forward in the next few years, as I asked earlier, and any final comments you'd like to make, wrapping up your thoughts?
Yeah, I think within the next few years, we have a great opportunity with leadership change at all levels within Florida to really push some good policy initiatives that we've need to do, especially with schools. I think within the next few years, you're going to see a lot of movement when it comes to how schools are funded in Florida, especially with the tax. We didn't get into that, but the tax system changes that are going to be on the ballot coming up. But even after that, with the increase of private school and homeschooling, this is all changing the way that kids are learning and how they're learning. And so there will be, I think, a number of things within the next few years that deal with that we'll need people to stay vigilant on. And lastly, again, I just want to thank Eugene for allowing me to be on. And again, if you guys or any of your listeners are interested in helping, both in time or in monetarily, please go to our website, we'll appreciate any help that you can give.
And that website again?
GoFLCA.org.
GoFLCA.
CA.org. Yep. GoFloridaCitizensAlliance.org.
Excellent. And, the thing I picked up that I think is most interesting is that under your guidance and structure, they can follow a regiment in helping out at the local level that's consistent with the mission and the policies of Florida Citizens Alliance. Ryan Kennedy, thank you for joining me here today. I really appreciate your effort.
Thank you, Gene.
And thank all of you for joining me on another episode of Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. Really enjoyed this episode with Ryan Kennedy of Florida Citizens Alliance. Again, give him a call or contact the website. A lot of information there. This is the last leg in the outreach that we've been looking for, and it took a noteworthy group like this. Hope this is cookie cuttered and copied throughout the nation and is as successful elsewhere as it has been here in the state of Florida. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. See you soon. Relationships matter because people buy people, and that's why I buy Eddie Zarin Insurance of the Zarin Insurance Agency in Pensacola, Florida. A family-owned business with over 50 years in the business, and they treat people the right way. From homeowners insurance to contractors insurance, condo insurance, commercial insurance, all the different coverages that are out there, and of course auto insurance, they've got you covered. They worry about you first. You're more than a policy number. You're a person who they're watching out for, not when the sun is shining, but after the hurricane has left. If you want real service with real savings, contact Eddie Zarin at the Eddie Zarin Insurance Agency. www.zarininsurance.com. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did when you do.